Okay, time to do a quick tutorial video about something you will probably not see all that often on YouTube, being tutorialized in Star Trek Online. That being how the system for bridge officers in your actual ship bridge works. And to a certain extent, that is incredibly arbitrary, because they designed the system to just fill seats. And the reality is that it's assigning a priority to fill the seats, and okay, it doesn't necessarily even fill all of the seats. So let's take a look at this one. This, of course, is the Miranda Bridge, which I have a KDF crew manning because for some reason I ended up with the Miranda Bridge on my Hysperion Intel battlecruiser. I don't remember if I intentionally made it that way or what. I don't know. Anyways, let's move on. So, going to go around the room starting here. Limef. Okay, so Bodgek, Limef, and Viliarsh are the Delta Rising Operations Pack bridge officers. And obviously I'm using all of them somewhere, and it thinks. This also means that they're bridge officers I've had for a relatively long time. And one of the things that affects the priority is when you acquired a bridge officer. Why exactly that affects the priority, I'm not sure in some cases. I think it has a list internally with roster numbers, and it just starts at the top of the list and goes down. However, I don't think this is solely, but I'll explain the other part. It's because it starts by, it's okay, the ones that are on your actual stations here, it will look for those first and then fill in slots from other places. First priority is the actual space stations here. Then you have the away team. That's the second priority. Now, if you'll note with my away team, it didn't actually fill all of them. It didn't pull in Cowermyth, for example. Why? Interesting question. Let's take a look. Oh yeah, also, Doctor. Holographic bridge officers will most of the time not get pulled to your bridge. It just is seemingly set up to not pull holographic bridge officers. And certain other special bridge officers just don't get pulled to your bridge. So, Limef here. Delta Rising Operations Bridge Officer, something I've had for a long time on this character. I think I actually claimed her before I finished the tutorial, so she has a lower roster number than some of my tutorial bridge officers. Also, she's both on the space and ground setups. Tyla. I have no idea why it pulled her in. She's not on the space or on the ground, and she's actually something I didn't acquire until relatively recently, because this character was created for the first Delta Recruit thing. So part of his reason for having all three of the Delta Rising Operations Pack bridge officers in his crew is because they were new when I created this character and I was trying out new toys. So I put them on his crew. Tyla was not added until they did the whole Gamma Quadrant thing. Why is it pulling her? I couldn't tell you. Also, notice how it's showing the Federation thing. I think that's solely because the fact that this is the Miranda Bridge. It amuses me greatly, though. Alright, next up. Engineering Officer. Now, if you look at my space stations and my standard away team, there are only 2 engineers in that setup. This is probably the result of the game deciding it wants a 3rd engineer to fill a seat. And also, but between my space and ground team, I only actually have 8 bridge officers. If I was to have a third engineer in that group somewhere, like say replace Limef on my away team with Fuzimore, it might have put Fuzimore in this seat instead. But yeah, it's like some of the seats are actually designated, like this is an engineering officer, this is a tactical officer, etc. So if you just don't have enough of them in your space and ground team, it'll fill it from somewhere. But in this case, it didn't actually just pull a random guy from my roster. It just didn't pull anyone. And of course, if it fails to find someone, it'll just throw in a random NPC to sit there. Getson. Now, Getson is not on the space team or the ground team. He's a random science officer. Odd. Whatever. Yeah, like I said, it's kind of arbitrary in a lot of ways. Okay, this is one of those where it's probably being chosen because he is in the top ranked tactical seat on my space team. Chiro, top ranked engineer slot. Merzim, top ranked science slot on my space team. I need to get this angle right. Bodkek. Now, while this is a tactical officer, it's ranked using a universal seat, but I think it is pulling him as like the second tactical officer. Kagan. This is a tutorial bridge officer. If I remember right, the current version of the tutorial, this is actually the first bridge officer you get. And it's pulling him because he's a tutorial bridge officer and not because I'm actually using him for anything. Again, it's the whole like roster numbers thing. Like usually, to a certain extent, it will just like pull whoever you've had longest. Because if I remember right, Getson and so some of the other guys like oh yeah, here's Fuzimore. It actually did pull Fuzimore even though I'm not using him. If I remember right, Fuzimore and Getson are bridge officers that I had acquired on a different character and just transferred over so that because I wanted to have Lethians and Nausicaans on my crew. Mostly for flavor reasons, because it's a Gorn. But yeah. Alright, Chigren, another tutorial bridge officer. Notably, Chigren is an engineer. So, this particular one, I actually counted before I did the video, actually has seating for 12 bridge officers, which is more than you can have on this, which is probably part of the reason why some of them are just pulling from your rosters, because you can't fill 12 seats if you're filling from this. It just doesn't work. There used to be bridges that would try to do that. I want to say Temple or Nomad. One of the old like science vessel interior bridges where they have like all these like science workstations scattered around the bridge. I think one version of that bridge was actually tried to fill 15 seats using only 5 bridge officers and would, in a past iteration, throw in a whole bunch of repeats because of the fact that it's only grabbing the ones that are actually on your Starship Bridge stations. Anyway, though, and that's the full list here. So, what did it actually pull? Okay, Riliarsh is an engineer. Chigren is also an engineer. So yeah, the thing I was saying about how if I had a second engineer on my space team, it might have gone here. I think really that might actually be third. This might actually be engineer number 3 that this guy is filling. Because Riliarsh is technically an engineer, so I think Riliarsh might actually be the engineer number 2 seat. The fact that it didn't pull a random dude from my roster Yeah, suggests that this is actually specifically only looking for your space bridge crew. Because, like, Getson he's a science officer, yes, but I'm not using him. Yeah, but also it's like with Tyler, it's like I think 3 of the stations on this are actually specifically set to just grab some random guy from your crew. And because of the fact that it's impossible to actually fill all of them using things that you actually assigned. So the one for Tyler is just like pulling some random guy. Anyway, though, yeah, that's about it. There's not a whole lot you could actually like positively identify with this because of the fact that some aspects of this logic are arcane mysteries that you as a player won't ever directly see. And you can only guess as to what they're doing by looking for patterns in how the game handles things. Although, some of what I know about this is actually derived from the way that the Foundry would do it, because we did have Foundry hookups for choosing bridge officers, and those Foundry hookups used variable names that were apparently related to how this picks up bridge officers. But, you know, I don't think it actually worked the same, if you know what I mean. And that is all for now. Oh yeah, one final note. Each bridge seemingly has a different logic for how each station on that bridge is filled. Now, 2 bridges might share the same logic, or they might not. The most infamous example of this is the Romulan bridge, because of the fact that that one is very, very specifically designed to be specifically Romulan, and it works in ways that are very, very strange and inimical to having non-Romulans use it properly. Like, that particular interior is actually coded to have certain things be visible or invisible depending on accolades that as a non-Romulan you can't earn. But anyways, if I do a video specifically about that one, yeah, I'll talk about that more on that one. See you guys later.